luck, effort, and the stories we tell ourselves about success. So I want to start off by starting this segment and saying, I understand that not everything in your life is in your control. You do have a realm of influence, right? And the way I like to say it is like this. If this is the best life you could possibly live, like insert whatever your idea of a perfect life is, like you're a millionaire without trying, you have amazing genetics, you never have to exercise, eating is easy for you, you have all the friends in the world, you're charismatic, whatever you think is the best life, put it right here. Over here at the bottom, imagine the worst life possible. For me, I always use the example of like your Somali child that just got abducted by pirates. This is the absolute range of how good and how bad life can be. You have a personal range that is dictated by your circumstances. Where you're born, when you're born, to whom you're born, with what genetics are you born, and so on, right? So if you look like this, and this is the upper edge, absolute upper edge, absolute lower edge, you have a personal upper edge, which probably falls like down on here. If you got very blessed and you got born with all the right stuff, maybe your upper edge is at the top of the absolute range, right? For most people, it's not. For most people, it's quite a bit lower. And your bottom range, your personal bottom range, is somewhere around here. Now, you can be extremely unlucky and like fall way down here. But for the amount of people that think they're extremely unlucky, you'd think they don't know how a bell curve works. Realistically, your lower range is probably somewhere around here. Where you fall into in this range is how much effort you put into life. You determine where you fall into this range. If you're at the very top of your personal range and you're not happy with life, then I think you have to come to the realization that this is the life you were given and you're just making the most of it. If you're making the most of it, then what else can you do? But I don't think that's the case. I don't think people living at the top of their personal range are really sad of life. I think they're quite happy with life, in fact. It's people that are living at the bottom of their personal range that are very unhappy of life and often talk about how unlucky they are. But that's not true. Most of the time, it's not luck. Most of the time, it's effort. And I know that it is a difficult thing to understand. I know that the amount of luck you have does play a major role. But I don't think bad luck or even standard luck is an excuse not to try. Were NBA players lucky to be born 6'4"? Yes, absolutely they were. No doubt about it. But there's a whole bunch of 6'4" guys that aren't in the NBA. So what happened? Where did they get unlucky? And you can say, well, maybe they don't have the best athletic genetics. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Maybe some of the cases it's just lack of luck. The way I like to think about luck is the following. Say rolling a die 4 times and getting 4 ones in a row is being considered lucky. That is very lucky. It's a very rare occurrence. You have a very small chance of that happening. But rolling the die only 4 times and expecting to get 4 ones, that's what I would call lunacy. Because if you roll that same die 400,000 times, then you're much more likely to get 4 ones in a row. Now, is it easier said than done to roll a die 400,000 times? Yes, I understand. Rolling the die 400,000 times just to ensure that you get lucky at some point, it's a lot of effort. No one's life lines up perfectly so they can do that kind of experiment, right? But if you feel like you have to roll the die 400,000 times to get the luck you need to be happy, maybe you need to adjust what your definition of happiness is. Or let's remove the idea of happiness, right? If you say you have to roll the die 400 times to get what you're aiming for, then you need to recalibrate what you're aiming for, right? So an example of this is if your goal is to have a business that makes $1 million revenue in the first year of operations, you're right, you would probably need to roll that die 10,000 times for that to happen. You need to start 10,000 businesses for that to be the case. And no one has enough time in their life to start 10,000 businesses. So yeah, you're probably not going to get lucky if that's what your definition of lucky is. But if you readjust that, let's say your goal is to have a business that makes $1 million in revenue within the first 10 years of operation. Well, now it's a lot less harder. Maybe you only need to start 20 businesses to get that, or 40, or if you're really good, only 10. So if you feel like you need to get extremely lucky to reach your goals, then maybe you need to readjust your goals. and maybe you need to readjust why you think you have to have this large element of luck in your goals. So readjust them, understand that luck is an element of it, but it's not all of it, and then keep on trying. Maybe a more tangible example, because not everyone here wants to start their own business or become a millionaire or, anything financially based. Let's say there's a guy or girl or a non-binary person, Apache helicopter, insert whatever gender you want into a scenario, who wants to find their wife. And they go out and they approach 10 people and they get rejected by 10 people, or they go on dates with 10 different people and not one of those dates work out. And then they give up and they say, man, I'm just unlucky. I just can't find who I'm meant to be with. I've gone out with 10 different people and not a single one that worked out. That person isn't unlucky. In fact, they're literally average. On average, no one, well, not no one, but on average, very, very few people find the person they're meant to be with on their first 10 tries. So you're not unlucky. And by not trying anymore, you've reduced your chances of striking luck to 0. You will never find that person if you give up. And then you can look to other people that have found the person and be like, man, they were just lucky. They were born more attractive. They were born more confident. They were born more successful. They were born with more charisma to go speak to people. When in reality, they probably got rejected more times than you did, but they just kept going. They kept rolling the die until the 4 ones came up. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're just telling yourself you're unlucky and that's the reason why you're not achieving your goals, then either one, you need to recalibrate your goals to something that needs less luck, or you just need to keep on trying. You need to keep on collecting data. If I had a coin and I flipped this coin 10 times, and each time it came out heads, and I told you, man, this coin is a rigged coin. There's no way of flipping tails. You just tell me keep on flipping it. But when we look at people trying things, we don't give them that same advice to keep on going and keep on trying things. And here's the other thing about luck. While it's true that being lucky is random chance, circumstance, whatever you want to call it, there is an element to luck where I do believe there's a hot streak. And being someone who works in the stats world, I understand that it's an unpopular opinion to say that there's a hot streak to luck. I don't care. I don't care what all the advanced studies have done. I don't care what the statistics may say. I don't care that these are technically independent events. I do believe there's a hot streak element to luck. And what I mean by that, I think if you get lucky once, it increases your probability that you get lucky again. But I think it does it for the reason that if you get lucky once, your initial circumstances now change, right? So think of an NBA player shooting a basketball. His first 4 shots miss, and then he hits 3 in a row. And now the statistician will tell you, well, he's equally as likely to make the next shot as he isn't. I don't think that's true. Because in making those 3 shots in a row, he's now built confidence. Same thing with businesses, right? If you start one business and it fails absolutely, and then you go on to start another business and it fails absolutely, and you start a third business and it succeeds. Now when you start your next business, you start with the knowledge that you have done it before. So 1, you gain confidence. 2, you do have the knowledge on what made the previous business successful. So you start with more knowledge. If you want to go back to the dating example, maybe the first date, it bombs, but it's because you were too nervous and things didn't click well and she didn't laugh at any of your jokes. Next date you go on, goes much better. They seem way more interested in you. They laugh at your jokes, and now you have more confidence. You know what works. Maybe you tried something different. Maybe you dressed better. Maybe you learned some topics of discussion. Maybe you did something that influenced the outcome of that date that made it go better, and now you bring it into your next event. And there's this thing where competence breeds confidence breeds competence, right? If you get something right, you're more confident, and being more confident, you're more likely to get right the next time. So if you're feeling like you're super unlucky, keep going until you get lucky once, and then use that luck with momentum and go on to the next thing and trying to achieve something else. I don't want us to tell ourselves that the reason that we don't have the lives that we want is because we're unlucky. It's not true. Yeah, maybe you don't have the life that you want because you've made an unrealistic expectation of the life you can have. Not everyone's going to be an NBA player. Not everyone's going to be a millionaire. Hell, not even everyone's going to get married. It's a sad truth of things. But if you need all these super specific things to line up for you to be happy, then the problem isn't luck. The problem is how you define happiness or how you define success or whatever you want to call it. That's the real problem. And the second problem is that you've given up before you tried. So I believe those are kind of my opinions on luck and effort. Yes, you do need some luck. Everyone needs some luck. But you will get that luck. Statistically, most people have average luck. That's how statistics works. So if you have average luck, then the only way to be lucky is to keep on trying and keep on trying and keep on trying. And yes, it's true, in the attempt to keep on trying, there'll also be a lot of cases where you get unlucky. But understand those are rare and they're going to happen. And you just got to keep on going. And hopefully for that, you can find the luck hopefully for that, you can achieve the things you want to and not have something as arbitrary as luck get in the way. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that clip from the interview of Augu. If you want to come onto the podcast, remember, all are welcome. Just fill in the form in the description and we'll see if we can have you on. If you want to watch the full podcast, click on the link here. If you want to watch anything else from the channel, click on the link here. Thanks for watching, guys.